Hey Eagle fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Welcome into Philadelphia Eagles Now. Before we start today's video, get your mailbag questions in down below in the comment section right now using the hashtag Eagles, because I've not done a mailbag following the NFL draft yet. I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions, so go down below, use the hashtag Eagles, and ask away. All right, in today's video, I want to go ahead and take a look at some available free agents that Philadelphia could go ahead and sign today in order to fill the cracks that, honestly, for some position groups, they didn't exactly address in the 2021 NFL draft. I know what you're thinking, Thomas, right? Like, free agency already happened, the Eagles don't have a lot of money, and the draft did just happen. Like, how many position groups do they need to go ahead and improve after the 2021 NFL draft? I think you'd be surprised. I mean, I think Philadelphia had a decent draft, and we talked about that, but I do think there are still some major needs on this football team, and with these free agents who are still available at this point, a lot would be one-year deals for older guys who maybe could come in and provide a veteran presence to get Philadelphia to do the next draft in 2022, where they could go ahead and maybe take that position of need in an earlier round, like the first or second round. So we'll start with the cornerback depth chart right now, because I think cornerback was the one thing I really wish they would have spent a little bit more draft capital on, right? I know they drafted Zech McPherson in the fourth round of the 2021 NFL draft out of Texas Tech, but I mean, one, he's a Texas Tech cornerback, so not a lot of guarantees there that he's going to be good, hopefully, no guarantee though. And two, are we just going to assume that's going to be Darius Slay, Avonte Maddox, and Zech McPherson as your top three cornerbacks this year? Maybe. I mean, that's what it's looking like right now, but I think they need to add another cornerback to this group, because Avonte Maddox last year was terrible. Again, McPherson is going to be a rookie, and you just have Darius Slay, who's going to be falling around the best receiver from each football team. But what if you're playing Dallas and they have two good receivers, and Amari Cooper and also CeeDee Lamb, and then of course Michael Gallup, and then you got all the other receivers in the NFC East, and so corner, I think, is still, I mean, honestly, a massive need for this football team. So let's take a look at the free agent cornerbacks, the four best available according to my list right now. And again, these are all guys that aren't groundbreaking superstar corners. There's a reason that each and every one of them are unsigned, but I think each one of them could provide something for Philadelphia, especially with the need at cornerback. So we'll start with Richard Sherman, right? Sherman is first on the list here. We'll talk more about him in just a second, but at the age that he is right now, a one-year deal would be very, very, I think, intriguing for Philadelphia. You see Nickell Robey-coleman on there, former Eagle last year. I don't think they would re-sign him, but he is an option, and maybe he'd play better than what he did last year because he was awful last year. Garyon Conley missed the entire 2020 NFL season with ankle surgery, but did play in 2019 and is still young, right? 26 years old. And then you got a guy like Jason McCourty, who is the oldest of the bunch here. He turns 34 this year, but like Sherman, could provide maybe a veteran presence in the cornerback locker room to go ahead and get these young guys like McPherson ready to rock and eventually become starting quarterbacks in the National Football League. Back to Sherman, though. I think he's very intriguing. One, it's interesting he's still unsigned. He's not like super old. He's on the wrong side of 30, but still had a pretty productive when he wasn't injured 2020 campaign. There were hints that he wanted to be a Raider and then come back to the 49ers, maybe go over to the Jets, and he still is unsigned. Sherman on a one-year deal for 3 or 4 years would not be the worst thing in Philadelphia. Like, put him as a starting cornerback opposite Darius Slay and let him be a bridge cornerback between now and 2022, where there are a lot of very good projected NFL draft corners, and Philadelphia's got a lot of early draft picks, and so you need one more year to be able to spend the first or second round draft pick on the cornerback, and then boom, you go ahead and just let Sherman go after 1 year, insert the rookie cornerback, and the corner position is saved not only in 2021, but hopefully overall in 2022. Garyon Conley is also interesting here. He's a lot younger, so maybe you could get him on a 2-year deal. He's only 26 years old. As I said earlier, didn't play in 2020 due to an ankle injury. He had ankle surgery. He did play in 2019. Wasn't anything special, never really lived up to his first round draft pick grade, but overall, I think would be at least be some competition on the outside, right? At least he'd be some competition for Avonte Maddox and Zech McPherson, who both of which have a lot of question marks going into the 2021 NFL season. So, a couple of names here. Again, we start with corner, and then we'll move on to some other position groups as well. But let me ask you guys this. What's the Eagle position group that still needs help right now? And again, the only real chance is, I guess, making a trade, but in reality, just signing free agents. That's why we're doing this video. Give me your position group that Philadelphia still needs to go ahead and address down below right now in the comments section. Okay, let's go ahead and move over to the wide receiver depth chart right now, because I think there are still some free agent wide receivers that Philadelphia could go ahead and look at. First off, let me just say this. Unlike the cornerback position group, Philadelphia did address the wide receivers in this year's draft, and of course we all know Devontae Smith, right? He's easily wide receiver number 1, and I could totally see this wide receiver group being the starting wide receiver group going into the 2021 season. I mean, Smith, Rager year 2, Ward, Fulgham, and then all the question marks of Arcega-Whiteside, Hightower, and Watkins. Like, that's not bad, right? I think that is much better than what Philadelphia has had for a very long time at the wide receiver position, but there are still some options in free agency Philadelphia could look to in order to create some competition and maybe just add a little bit more depth for young Jalen Hurts, because we know that's the goal right now in Philly, is to make sure Hurts has all the weapons he needs. 4 best options available right now. Again, it's not a lot, but still, Danny Amendola, a little too old for me, but he makes the list because he'd be a veteran presence to hopefully kind of groom the young wide receiver core. Philly has basically no veteran presence besides Greg Ward right now. Kenny Stills, Damiere Byrd, who could be more of a returner, I guess, and then we finish on Dede Westbrook, who to me is the one guy on this list that still is, it's kind of a question mark why he is still unsigned. Like, no team wants to sign Dede Westbrook. I know he missed 14 games in 2020 with a torn ACL, and that's a lot of the reasons why the guys on these lists are still available, but returned punts while he was in Jacksonville, and still had 66 catches in 2019. I mean, listen, bad Jaguars team, Gardner Minshew was throwing him the football. I think Westbrook on a very cheap one-year deal could be a competitive addition to the wide receiver group in order to go ahead and kind of figure out, like, is J.J. Arcega-Whiteside going to make this football team this year? I don't know. Is Hightower, Watkins, like, these guys were drafted, yes, but they didn't produce. At least Whiteside hasn't produced in a long time, and so the hope is that one of the three is going to go ahead and be, wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5 on this team, but if not, maybe a guy like Dede Westbrook could go ahead and win the role, as he has been a starter at Jacksonville previously, where he was drafted just a couple of years ago. Rate the wide receiver depth chart right now, scale 1 to 10. I think it got a lot better. I mean, honestly, it was like a 4 or a 5. Devontae Smith makes it like a 7, or at least a 6 or a 7, maybe even a 7 or an 8. But give me your rating on the wide receiver depth chart right now down below in the comments section. I like where it's at. I think it could stay where it's at, but I wouldn't mind adding a Westbrook on the right price for the right money. Okay, before we go and keep going, I mentioned Devontae Smith. His jersey is still available. I'm surprised that it's not sold out yet, but it will be selling out soon at the number 6 Midnight Green Philadelphia NFL Nike Edition jersey is available to pick up right now. That way you have it ready to go for the start of the 2021 season, where presumably you'll be able to wear it in Lincoln Financial Field. We got it right here. Chatsports.com/Devontae is the place to go. The link will be down below in the description box. I haven't got an Eagles jersey in a couple of years because I almost got a Wentz jersey, and then they let go of Wentz, so I'm glad I didn't. But Smith feels like a very safe Eagles jersey to get right now because we expect him to be good and we expect him to go ahead and be there for a long time. So I might be snatching one of these up unless they sell out. So get one right now, chatsports.com/Devontae. All right, moving on to other position groups Philadelphia could address in free agency right now with the guys who are available. We'll go to the defensive end position, right? I thought they might spend a second or a third round on defensive end. They went D-tackle with Williams in the 3rd round, which, again, one of the better picks, I think, in this NFL draft. But I still think a rotational edge rusher could be of use if they could afford one. And the price is kind of the issue right now. I think Sweat is going to assume the starting defensive end role. He'll probably beat out Brandon Graham in camp, even though, or sorry, not Brandon Graham. He'll beat out Derek Barnett in camp, even though they are going to rotate anyway. But there are some options right now if you wanted to go ahead and have Philadelphia sign a defensive end. Here are the 4 best, and you'll see a theme here. They're all old. Melvin Ingram, the former Charger, who apparently just wants too much money. Like, it's kind of surprising he's still unsigned. Had injuries last year, but wants a lot of money. Justin Houston, he was a Colt last year, very old, would need to be on a very cheap deal for me to be interested. Adrian Claiborne and Olivier Vernon are the other 2 to go ahead and round out our list here. Kind of the weakest of the group in terms of, we talked about cornerbacks and wide receivers. These guys are all really, really old, none of which can be a starter in the National Football League. I mean, you bring these guys in to be rotational at best, right? Melvin Ingram's problem right now is that, one, he's coming off of injuries in 2020 where he had like 0 sacks, but he was good in 2019 when he was a Pro Bowler and they gave him some money. So I wouldn't mind Melvin Ingram, but apparently the asking price is too high because the Chiefs brought him in for a visit a couple of weeks ago before the NFL draft, and then there was no deal, presumably because it was too much, and so maybe you get him on a cheaper option. I wouldn't mind him, but I think he's probably the most expensive and unrealistic player on this entire list that we're talking about here today. But it would be something in order to add some competition at the defensive end position, right? That's the point of this video, right? None of these guys you would sign would be instant starters besides like a cornerback. The rest would be competition. And if they went ahead and won the starting job, then great. And if not, then, oh well, you wouldn't pay them too much money. It's the point of signing a free agent after the NFL draft. All right, final position group, I think, because I feel good about linebacker, and there weren't a lot of free agent linebackers. I feel good about running back, obviously, and obviously quarterback. We talked all about that. Safety, there weren't a lot of good ones to sign. There are some offensive linemen, though, that I want to throw out here in case Philadelphia has an injury, right? Now, knock on wood, like hopefully we don't have a repeat of last year. Brandon Brooks get healthy, Lane Johnson get healthy, I mean everybody get healthy. Because right now, the Eagles starting offensive line looks pretty good. I mean, honestly, with Kelsey at the center, Seumalo going to be good to go. Hopefully, it's going to be Mailata left tackle, and then you got Brooks and Kelsey on the right side, or Brooks and Johnson on the right side. That's good. Now, if they do have an injury at some point, there are some really good options. They're a little bit older, as they, of course, will be on this list, but there are some good free agent options. You got guys like Russell Okung. That's the Bitcoin guy who got his entire Carolina Panthers salary of $13 million in Bitcoin, like 30,000 Bitcoin a price jump ago. I mean, the guy's really rich, so congratulations, Russell Okung. You got Mitchell Schwartz, right? He's, of course, the former chief, the brother of Jeff Schwartz. You probably see him on Twitter. I met him in person. He's a nice guy. But Mitchell Schwartz is still a free agent because he's recovering from back surgery. You got Eric Fisher, who was let go by the Chiefs following the AFC title game, where he, of course, tore his Achilles, so it may not be the best signing just because of the injury process, but still, he could get back to the later points of next season. And a guy like Rick Wagner as well, who's not been injured, or at least not injured recently, and could be another option if they needed to sign somebody. Okung is probably the best player on this list. He's not been really healthy the past couple of years. He's only played in, 13 games the past 2 seasons due to, injuries. He had blood clots and some lung issues, but that seems to be fixed, and so I'm sure some team will sign him. It won't be for a lot, though. I wouldn't sign Okung right now until you would, or I should say if, not until, because we're not getting knock on wood, but if you were to have an injury, Okung could be a really good option there for Philadelphia to take a look at if they needed to go ahead and throw a body in on the offensive line. But I honestly feel pretty good about the current Eagles offensive line. All right, before we go ahead and end, name a free agent you guys want the Eagles to sign. Any of these make you excited? Are you intrigued by any one of them? To me, the only one I'd really want would be a corner. I wouldn't mind Sherman or Garyon Conley just for competition's sake. But if you like any one of these names, let me know which one you want Philadelphia to sign in the comments section down below. Before we go ahead and end, make sure you guys are subscribed to Philadelphia Eagles now, because subscribers are going to get their mailbag questions answered. And, of course, you leave a mailbag question, as we said at the beginning of the video, down below in the comments section. #Eagles. Ask your question on Friday. I think I'm going to probably Friday, Saturday, something on a weekend time frame. I'll answer subscriber questions. So 1, subscribe, and 2, leave your comments in the comment section down below. Ultimately, out for today here on Philadelphia Eagles Now, I am your host, Thomas Moz. We go ahead and sign off for the rest of your day.